hours before my dad passed away from stage 4 lung cancer were heartbreaking. He was admitted to the ER and then moved to the ICU. Due to strict hospital COVID rules, my mother, sister, and I weren't allowed to be by his side. Throughout the day, we called and texted him repeatedly, but he never responded. My mother even contacted the hospital and spoke with one of his ICU nurses, who reassured us that he was awake and communicating normally. Sadly, he passed away very suddenly at 3:30 a.m. the following morning. By the time we were allowed to be with him, he was no longer conscious. We said our goodbyes and he was gone. Later that morning, while my mom rested, I began making arrangements for his cremation and sorting through the belongings the hospital had returned to us. Among them was his phone. Seeking comfort, I decided to read through our final text to him. To my surprise, none of our messages had been read. Not mine, my mother's, or my sister's. I assumed he was too weak or in too much pain to respond. As I scrolled through his phone, I noticed a chat app I had vaguely heard of but never used. Out of curiosity, I opened it and saw a single contact with a woman's name. As I read through their messages, I realized my father had been in constant contact with this person during his final hours and as far back as I could scroll. Their conversation was deeply personal, filled with terms of endearment like princess and declarations of love. She expressed concern for his condition, asking why he was in the ER and how he was feeling. I scrolled back far enough to realize this was more than just a friendship. It was at least an emotional affair. My grief turned into a whirlwind of anger and betrayal. A week later, I tracked the woman down and contacted her through direct messages. She revealed that she was 19 years old and had met my dad when she was just 17. He had been her high school bus driver. According to her, they had been dating for nearly 2 years. My dad was 66 years old. Learning that he spent his last moments communicating with someone so young, someone younger than his own grandchildren, was devastating. I hope it brought him some happiness in his final days, but it left me with a bitter truth I'll have to carry for the rest of my life. A truth that casts a shadow over my entire relationship with him, one I'll never have the chance to confront or make peace with. It's the one secret I wish I had never uncovered. Story 2. She was my best friend for 7 years. We'd been through everything together. When I moved out of state with my now husband, she convinced us both to return so we could be closer to her. After about a year of living away, we didn't have any strong ties to our new location, so we thought, why not? She was practically family. Moving back felt like the right decision. It was the happiest I'd been in a long time. She was at our house almost every night for dinner, and we spent countless hours laughing and enjoying each other's company. That first year back was perfect. But then things began to change. Slowly, she started driving a wedge between my husband and me. Whenever we argued, which like any couple we occasionally did, she would text both of us, validating each of our perspectives and subtly fostering resentment between us. With me, she planted the idea of a backup plan, saying that if my husband and I didn't work out, I could move in with her. She'd tell me how great our life together would be. Meanwhile, with my husband, she began bringing up her struggles with infertility and how she wanted a child who looked just like him, hinting that she simply needed a sperm donor. All of this came to light around the same time. Like him, hinting that she simply needed a sperm donor. All of this came to light around the same time. My husband and I compared messages, piecing together her manipulative behavior. Her goal became disturbingly clear. She wanted his sperm and envisioned raising a child with me as her partner. When we confronted her, she denied everything and lashed out at both of us. Things escalated quickly. She started showing up uninvited, banging on our door, demanding to be let in. The situation became so terrifying and anxiety-inducing that we had no choice but to move and change our phone numbers. It's deeply unsettling to look back on someone I considered family, someone I trusted implicitly, and realize how toxic and obsessive her feelings toward me were. She cared, yes, but in a way that was unhealthy and frightening. That chapter of my life taught me a hard lesson about trust and boundaries. Story 3. After my great-uncle passed away, my family made a shocking discovery. While cleaning out his attic, we found a chest containing photos and memorabilia from his time as a Grand Wizard in the KKK. The chest held images of rallies, lynchings, and cross burnings, all taking place in rural Alabama. We were horrified and deeply disturbed, and suddenly many things about his behavior made sense, like his negativity toward his black hospice nurse, who had always been kind and compassionate to him and our family. When the discovery came to light, my family, overwhelmed with shame and disbelief, decided to burn everything. I was 16 at the time and had no say in the matter, but the adults in my family felt it was the best way to deal with the weight of what they had found. We held prayer vigils through our church to honor the victims of his hatred and to pray for healing. Looking back, I sometimes wonder if we should have preserved some of the evidence to provide closure to those affected by his actions. At the time, however, my family's priority was to sever ties with his legacy and erase him from our history. His gravestone was removed to prevent anyone from commemorating him, and he has been entirely omitted from our family records. My family has always prided itself on being inclusive. My ancestors were active in the civil rights movement, and one of my great-grandfathers was even involved in the Underground Railroad. For us, this discovery was a painful contradiction to everything we believed about our family. It's a heavy burden to bear, but we have tried to reconcile it by focusing on our actions today and honoring the values of inclusion and equality. Story 4. This isn't exactly a secret someone confided in me, but rather unsettling comments made by a family member about a notorious murder case in the Midwest. The case involved victims who were killed and reportedly fed to pigs, and although the murderers were caught, little to no remains were ever recovered. Over the years, this family member has occasionally made vague remarks about the case. Their comments never reveal anything incriminating or provide new information, but the serious and hushed tone they use has always left me uneasy. It's as if they might know more than they're letting on, whether firsthand or through someone else. The situation feels even more eerie considering their background. At the time of the murders, this relative worked at a slaughterhouse owned by another family member, who also happened to be an ex-biker and somewhat of a mysterious figure in their own right. This relative seems to relish making people uncomfortable, often recounting the gory details of animal processing, especially pigs, at the dinner table. While it's possible their comments stem from a fascination with true crime or the rumors that tend to flourish in rural communities, I can't shake the feeling there's more to the story. Perhaps they know something they're hesitant to share, or perhaps it's all just unsettling talk. Either way, I'm tempted to gently probe the next time I see them. Maybe they'll finally open up, or maybe it's better left alone. Story 5. My best friend of 25 years once confessed to me that they believed they were a sociopath, and they said it with pride. Their declaration was followed by an exuberant, "I don't give a fuck about anyone but myself." I was taken aback and immediately tried to convince them otherwise, pointing out examples of their care for others. But as the years went by and life became more chaotic, I started to distance myself and observe them more closely. Eventually, I realized they had been right all along. Not only were they a sociopath, but they had been abusive, manipulative, and toxic to me for decades. They brought around some of the worst people imaginable, people who would try to ruin your life and isolate you if you disagreed with them. Over time, the passive-aggressive stabs and emotional manipulation piled up until one day, I finally woke up to who they truly were. It wasn't a sudden revelation, it was a long, gradual process. But when the moment came, I cut them out of my life completely. The healing process has been slow, but liberating. Looking back, it felt like I had been on a slow, intravenous drip of poison for decades, and pulling the IV out allowed me to step into the light. Life has been brighter ever since. Story 6. My mom's side of the family has an odd way of dealing with trauma. They turn horrific events into humorous stories to share at gatherings. It's their coping mechanism, I suppose, but it's jarring to hear. For example, stories about my grandfather trying to shoot my grandmother in front of their kids, or my mom being beaten for saying Billy Dee Williams was attractive, were told at Christmas parties, even when I was a child. The only things that don't get turned into fun stories are the events too dark or incomprehensible to process. Those get buried, and I've only caught glimpses of them over the years. One of those glimpses was when my grandmother casually mentioned that my grandfather had been in the KKK, participated in lynchings, and was really proud of his skill at it. Another was learning later in life that the only reason I saw him growing up, while none of my cousins did, was because he knew where my mom lived